Hey crafty friends, this is Jenny from CraftTestDummies.com, and today we're going to do a review and a demo of the Staz-On Studio Glazes from Imagine Crafts. Let's take a look. Okay, so let's take a look at these new Staz-On glazes. I saw these first at CHA and I thought they were really interesting. They come in a lovely array of colors that, by the way, coordinate with your Staz-On stamp pads. So what we'll do is we'll take a little look at the properties that they have and also how you can use them. Okay, so when you unscrew the cap, you see that it has a nozzle. It's not as fine as, say, the Pico embellishers, but it will give you a pretty fine bead. If it clogs up, you can use a little pin and just kind of get the booger out and it'll work just fine. But of course, what we want to do first is take a look at some of the colors. So while it's not really recommended for paper, it's really great to show you the different colors here on this white paper. Now, it's a viscous product that has a lot of doming capabilities to it, but it's really creamy and translucent. I feel like there's a lot of medium here and really not as much pigment. Also, you'll notice that it looks kind of creamy and opaque as I'm putting it down on the paper here, but what you'll find out is that as it dries, it actually turns more of a transparent color. Okay, so as you can see, these are really pretty vibrant colors. I'm going to move the paper so that you can see that there's a lot of dimensionality there. So these do dome, and they keep their dome pretty well. So you could theoretically almost make like little enamel dots if you wanted to. Now, I will say that there's no real noticeable odor, so those of you who may be sensitive will find that this is a friendly product. And you should also know that this stuff dries pretty glossy. It stays pretty glazy. You can see here where I kind of rubbed it into a porous surface. It will look a little more matte. Now, that being said, these really were not even recommended for paper. They're recommended for non-porous surfaces. So let me show you how it looks on different substrates. First, I did a sample on this little glass tile, and you can see that yes, it does dry completely translucent, and it does shrink a little bit. It doesn't have quite as much dimensionality once it dries, but I still think it's a nice doming effect. And if you wanted, you could peel these little bad boys right on off and use them as enamel dots in your other projects. This next sample is a glazed ceramic ornament, and I just used my finger to apply the paint and kind of blend it together. I love the fact that it has kind of that stained glass look. It's very glossy, it's very textural, it's lovely. I will note it has a slightly sticky texture to it, so just be aware that you want to make sure that this is individually wrapped so that it doesn't stick to something else later on. I also tried it here on this little aluminum pail. It was milky when I put it on. It's dried, mostly glossy, mostly clear. However, I will notice though it still feels a little bit tacky, and if you chip it with your fingernail, it will peel off. So this is not really a permanent type of decoration, just maybe something decorative that you would hand wash and be a little bit more gentle with. So here I have a Mod Podgeable shape, and mostly I did this so that you could see just how thick the brush strokes are and how translucent it is when it dries. It has a lot of great texture, but again, I think if you took your fingernail to it, it would peel right off. So here I've used a little chipboard shape that has some white coating on it, but what I wanted you to see were the different layers. So I've got a couple of layers at the top and then 2 or 3 layers at the bottom. You can see that it's still very translucent. I stamped on the first layer, and I really like all of the color blending and the layering there. But again, take a look at that glossy sheen. Okay, and here on some paper, you can see the nice gloss, you can see the texture, and of course it shows up beautifully on this white cardstock. It's almost like a little bit of stained glass, and then I made those enamel dots on the side. And here again, I use some of the beautiful metallics. Now these really do have a lot of shimmer and shine. I even used a little bit of blue as a wash. Because this is an acrylic, you can dilute it with water and layer it if you like. But notice how it really held the texture and the shape, and of course the beautiful shine. So don't be afraid to use it for mixed media as well. Now, on that, I thought you might like to see it on some black paper, and you can see really how these metallics pop. But that one on the right is supposed to be cotton white, but it's not cotton, it just dries clear.
So I tried that cotton white on this piece of UTE that I had stamped, and I tried to make it like a glaze over the top, and I really wanted it to be kind of like a ceramic tile look, and it just wasn't that successful. But that's okay, we're gonna move ahead. The next piece was a little wooden embellishment. It really did let the wood grain kind of show through, which I enjoyed. And next we've got a piece of polymer clay. And again, I was kind of thinking maybe it would be like a top coat, but it just won't stick to the polymer clay. It won't interact with the clay, which some things will, but just because of the nature of polymer, it will just scratch right off, just so you know. Lastly, I want to show you some of the ways I used it in my journal. Now, it's not really built for paper. It will cause it to wrinkle, but don't be afraid. I used some gesso and then made a wash. I also just made some spirals and swirls here, and it plays very nicely with watercolor media. It's almost like a resist. So on this little sample, I had a piece of black paper and some paint and then some deli wrap, and then I put some of that nice glossy Staz-On glaze here on the one side, and you can see how it just really adds these deep layers of luscious color. So don't be afraid to use it on paper, even if that's not what it says on the bottle. Okay, so there you have it. The way I'm feeling about it is that it's really a lot like the gallery glass products, the kind of faux stained glass acrylic product. Because of that high shine, because it has a lot of texture to it, a lot of material and a very translucent thin pigment, really it is good for light surfaces or glass or ceramics. Be aware that it has that little bit of a sticky texture to it. And most of all, don't be afraid to just experiment and have fun. So I hope you found this video helpful and or informative, and if you did, give it a thumbs up because that really helps out our channel. Also, don't forget to subscribe to Craft Test Dummies, and that way all the new videos will come to you. Lastly, don't forget that we get our best ideas for product reviews and tutorials from you. So if you have any questions, comments, or ideas, please leave them in the comments section below, and we'll take that into consideration when we make our next video. Thank you again for watching, and have a crafty day.